Hello, everyone. Welcome to Forge the Narrative. My name is Paul, your host, Bella All Souls Podcast. I'm joined by Tanya Gates,
Hey, everybody.
Adam Camilleri,
G'day.
Red Powell.
Hello.
Welcome, everyone, to the show. Had a break last week, and a lot went down in the Southeast these last couple of weeks. And so, if anybody has been impacted by the weather that we've had, I hope y'all are doing well and on the other side of it. And our hearts are with you. And where I was also supposed to be in Tampa that weekend that everything came through. Red, I believe you were going to be there as well. Glad they made the choice to not hold that event. And, guess we'll be seeing everybody in Atlanta. That's coming up. Atlanta for the finale. The World Championships of Warhammer going to be the countries competing for Grand Champion. The Grand Narrative is going to be happening there. It is going to be spectacular. So if there is a way for you to attend, you haven't made your plans yet, do it. You're going to want to be there. It is in about a month from now in Atlanta. Same place it was last time.
Can't wait. I'll be there for the narrative.
Oh, cannot wait. I'm jealous. I'm jealous. Is there any way for you and I to submit one army for the narrative, Paul, and then just one of us plays, one of us streams, and we swap every round?
Yes,
I thought you were going to say
totally.
we appoint a champion to play that army for us.
Ooh, pick me.
Okay, yeah, I would do that. And then every round you have to come back and report on the progress of the narrative. That would be sick.
We could have a second edition Angels of Death style force.
Oh, of course.
To take
my idea, and Paul's just it's Blood Angels. Thanks, Paul.
No, Dark Angels were also in that book.
Wait, don't we all play guard? Doesn't that make more sense?
Yeah, I was going to say surely guard makes more sense.
Yeah, but
Scion-based guard.
I do want to take a quick second. The team, even despite all the delays with Tampa and whatnot, of course all that went into it. But the GW team, they did do recently a kind of a Q&A introduction deal. They've really done a good job of kind of bringing people in and walking them into the grand narrative event, and so they do these kind of community or town hall engagements of where they give a general brief of it and they go through it and they lay out, here's the format, here's how it's structured, and then they allow a bunch of people to ask questions. And it's been really great in how they've addressed it. And Tanya, we've talked about the Crusade system and how the bookkeeping can be burdensome and everything. And they're really taking it to this extent that you don't have to do that. You don't have to, the grand narrative is still going to occur whether you do bookkeeping or not. It's still going to be this great experience. That's just something that people can. And they even opened it up that you can use any of the narrative Crusade material that's come out. So all my White Dwarfs that I've got all these different little things that have come out since 9th edition, and some of the different material, turning people, a Space Marine can go into a Dreadnought, or sisters characters, they can make a Saint, and all these other kinds of things that are really out there. But there's no pressure in this grand narrative format for people to have to keep up with the bookkeeping or anything like that, which I think it's liberating for some folks. I think that it takes off a lot of pressure for the people coming into it, and I think that's great. I think that again, it's really focused on having a good time and enjoying this story making experience amongst all of the players together.
Hundreds of players.
Hundreds. Well, and over 2 different venues. There's the Atlanta venue and the Warhammer Worlds venue in the UK.
Thousands of players.
It's just unfortunate to me that it's sort of explained now.
Right.
And it wasn't in a player pack kind of outlined what the expectations were. Otherwise, I might have went. I might have had time to figure it out and go.
Sure.
But
anybody that's on the fence for next year.
Yeah.
Look, we're going to continue to talk about it, and the players are going to become the best ambassadors of it. But this thing is wonderful, something to behold. We even try to get into it from where our booth is, and we'll be trying to report on it best we can, giving some coverage of that, because it is going to be amazing. You might even see Axel Hawk again this year. We'll see what's going on with that guy. there's been some changes since the last we spoke. You know, you turn around a couple times and things might be a little bit different in the Warhammer 40k side of things. And I'd like to report that Blood Angels did all right. So when I first ran just testing, you know, of course, when we got the book and everything with Sanguinary Guard, I did put 2 fusing pistols in that unit and just assumed that was the way it was going to be. And then I went back and read it, like, oh no, you can only do 1 per squad, but now it's back to 2 per squad. So, you know, go me. But also solid about how it kind of just what we saw with them when this FAQ is that the Sanguiner is pretty awesome. Probably doubling down on the fact that it's an auto include. But now we actually have some firm points and stuff. I do want to talk about in this episode orcs. We have been remiss in our October discussions. But, you know, we do actually now have some points to look at. There's been some potential winners and some potential losers and some folks that feel opposite of what I just meant in my own head. That's the way they feel. They feel the opposite based on, you know, how things are out there. We're going to try to separate the game from the truth a little bit and talk about it. So what are y'all thinking about the things that have been happening or that we've seen now?
Overall, I think these are pretty exclusively great changes. We were obviously in a position where the game kind of only needed a little bit of a refresh, a new coat of paint. Didn't need the wheel reinvented or a complete and utter, you know, overhaul of the game balance wise.
And you're saying that because of on the competition side of things, where we're looking at like win-loss rates and things are kind of like on a bubbling up. Like there could be a different top list every single week kind of thing.
Exactly right. We've seen very good results in the last 3 months from probably the widest swathe of different archetypes, different build types, and different factions that we've seen in a very long time. Probably the best parts of 9th edition and the best parts of 8th edition are the only things that are comparable in the last, you know, probably decade, because Lord knows there wasn't anything in 7th edition. But the state of the game, it didn't require a huge amount of changes, but there are some pretty significant ones. So, I mean, they even denoted in the article that, you know, the stuff that was outlying the Goldilocks zone, the 55 to 45% win rates, were the things that were mostly targeted for buffs and or nerfs, well, points increases and decreases. And I was about to say, the only one that's got me scratching my freaking head is who did Scary beat that wrote a letter of significance enough to see the faction. I mean, straight off the cuff, this will be Adams. This will be Adams. My one. What is going on here? Incubi got Incubi, and the model you have to take to make Incubi good, the Archon, because Incubi without the Archon is nowhere near as good. Is like a fifth as good as an Incubi unit with an Archon. That unit went up, and that combo went up more points than Deathwing Knights, which are a hugely, you know, and take it min-maxed, you know, 15 Deathwing Knights is a big stat check problem for a lot of different armies. And the fact that Incubi went up more, I'm just like, what's going on there, guys? Now, 2 of them, so if you had have asked me, Adam, what should go up in Drukhari? Beast packs. Straight to the sun. Just straight into the sun. Never want to see him again. And in addition, Lilith Hesprax was just very well pointed for what she did. She probably could have gone up pretty justifiably. But yeah, the rest of it,
I got different feels about Lilith. I think people are hot on Lilith because Lilith is one of the best things right now. But I still think she's too many points for the stats that she has. But I was thinking about this. Not to jump in too much, but I've been thinking about this. I was actually thinking about maybe what caused this with the Drukhari, and I have no insight. This is pure speculation, just kind of spitballing here. Is that are there like rules on the units and on the army too good to where if you made them like point wise equivalent to their like stats, then those rules would be too overwhelming?
Okay, I see what you're getting at.
Maybe.
So I was coming at it from the other side, being like maybe this is a level of foresight that we've seen demonstrated by Games Workshop before, where when they go in and rebalance a bunch of the top factions, they try and look at what really will be a problem once these factions have had these changes. And then maybe there is some metric they look at where they're like, wow, if we clear the way, Drukhari's going to ruin the game. And so they're like, okay, well, we need to take care of Drukhari. Well, not take care of, we need to adjust Drukhari now to line it up so it evens it up once the changes take effect.
See, my theory is that they were just getting through the backlog of all of the rules, complaints, and everything that people have submitted, and they finally got to about 2 years ago, and it's just a mountain of Drukhari, and they're like, yeah, might as well just go ahead and hit them now.
Some more points over there.
Yeah, someone in the basement at Games Workshop was like, "Oh my God, Drukhari's destroying everyone." Didn't look at the date, 2019 or whatever it was, 2022.
It's about the same time 2 years ago. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, with all the
hilarious.
I
love that take.
That kind of stuff. Well, I think we're kind of dancing around what might be the actual case. It's like there are, once things are certain ways, you want to, because each one of these is not necessarily just to whack-a-mole whatever's up on top. It is to get us closer and closer to that equilibrium where there's like, the any given Sunday, like if you build an efficient list from any codex, you can go and compete efficiently against somebody else.
Well,
and whatever
they're investing in the joy of the game. They're investing in people's enjoyment of the game, and they're being like, what do we need to do to make people have more fun playing Warhammer? And that's pretty much all this is. It's just GW being like, we want everyone to enjoy every interaction and every possible game that they could play if they rock up to their game store, tournament, event, whatever it may be. So how do we go about that?
So power from pain, you're playing Drukhari, you're in pain because of what's happening, and so you're like having fun with your army. I get it.
Well, but to that
Nice.
point also, I mean, it's that time of the year again. Like everyone should be more or less used to this habit at this point. That we get to this point and they deliver a points update. I think there were a lot of people that were surprised at the rules and the FAQs and whatnot that came with the point update. And to your point, Paul, like I and Adam, I think that they're trying with the best intentions to continue to. I mean, we're about 30-ish, a little over 30 days away from the World Champions at Atlanta occurring at the same time as the Grand Narrative. And so I think it was a fair insertion, a fair point to put it into it. It would have been just after Tampa had it occurred. And then, it makes sense. Like this isn't a bad time to add something in. And I from a rules design and a game development side of it, I can appreciate what they're trying to do with it.
No, I'm kidding a bit, of course, with the Drukhari. Drukhari have gotten a lot of attention over the last several releases for them. I mean, we got new detachments, new stuff, or whatever. So, of course, I'm kidding. But we are looking at this just as a kind of a head scratcher from some of the other stuff that we've seen. And well, I mean, I still think there's a lot of room in there for enterprising Drukhari generals to make it happen. We'll see what they can come up with. I know you mentioned some great ones out there. There are some faction specialists for that faction that I think maybe even, like people can be really dedicated to that army. So I'm curious of what they can come up with. We shall see.
Yeah, really. There's a huge amount of factions. I'm really excited to see what they can do with these changes. We've already mentioned we're going to be talking about Orcs. Really excited to see where Orcs go from here. Really excited to see where GSC go from here. AdMech, Death Guard is one that I really want to see what they can do, because a lot of the things Death Guard really came up against the stop sign against have now been reduced in efficacy and reduced in size of the army. And Death Guard got a couple of very poignant reductions. So I'm super excited to see what they can do.
There's a bit of change with Death Guard too. Like Typhus, the ability got a little bit curtailed. It used to could come in like target foe. Like it was a great thing. For 80 points, he's still a great. Or sorry, with the points he was still a value. And then you got that extra little thing sprinkled in on top.
So you're denoting the change there that he can no longer target lone ops. He could come in, and because it was a data sheet ability, not a listed weapon, it could get around the lone operative, and now it can't. Similar to what they did with Grey Knight Librarians, where they curtailed Vortex of Doom ability.
Yes, that's exactly right. But I still think value character. But that was something that people specifically brought into list to take advantage of. I'm curious if that's going to impact how often you see.
Well, Yeah, well, in addition, Typhus has now, because so many people were running solo Typhus, they were just running him by himself as a mortal wound bomb distraction kind of effects.
Yeah.
But now taking him with whichever Terminator variety you like is a lot more appealing, especially the Death Shrouds. Death Shrouds now look really good for their points. They've gone down quite a few, and now for 300 points you get Typhus and 6 Death Shroud, and that feels like a very attractive price point for that package.
The point drop on Death Shroud was good.
Yeah, real good.
210 points for six of them, and then Martarion going down to 300 points. Martarion was already making it into some list.
He went down 300 points now.
No, he's
down 300 points.
He's free now. Basically, you get points back if you take Martarion. The Emperor has finally shined upon him. No, he's down to 300 points. But so yeah, big changes, and you already saw some of those armies doing pretty well. Typhus still 80 points. I know I was a little bit ambiguous about that a second ago, but I checked to make sure. I don't think that change on his stat is enough to make him not worth it at that points cost still. And I think you're right. Brutal inside of Terminator Squad. Heck, they even get bonus rules for having a character with them. So, you're going to want to do it. I know we rambled on a bit, but orcs. I think I've heard a lot of orc players very excited about what is happening right now after this change.
I'm just excited that war bosses work properly again.
So what do you mean by that, Tanya, for the people at home?
So if you were to call a WA and your war boss just happened to be inside of a transport when you called it, it didn't get any of the bonuses. And that hurt real bad. And so now they've gone through, and anything that had a stipulation that sort of worked like that, they've gone through and they fixed it. So they just basically have to be on the battlefield taking advantage of the WA on the turn that you called it in order to get all of the bonuses as well. So, yay!
It's pretty nice.
Really good change.
Stompa, stay dead 100 points.
That's fine. You can't move it around the battlefield anyway. It's too big.
Morkanaut and Gorkanaut both went down.
Yeah.
I think it's 25 points a pop, which actually is quite attractive. I particularly like the Gorkanaut. I think he's looking pretty good. Same with the Death Dreads, looking quite attractive at 120. And a bunch of other different things. I really think it... So when the Orcs Codex came out, obviously it was extremely powerful. Games Workshop, depending on your perspective, either did exactly the right amount of changes to that book or way too many, depending if your color of your skin is in fact green. And now they're starting to peel some things back. And the things that they've peeled back are actually making some of the other detachments look quite attractive. I think Dreadmob has gotten another lift again in what it can perform.
And that was already one of the better ones.
Exactly right. The best shooting model in their book, the shock attack gun, went down. And I was like, huh? I mean, awesome, but also, huh? Good. And in addition to that, Mega Knobs went down also. Now they're down to 35 points per model and are looking pretty attractive again. They're not what they used to be. They're not what they were for that, hallowed whatever month and a bit. But they're quite attractive again. In addition, the greatest things I think for them is that boys and Beast Snagger boys all went down 1 point per model.
That's,
so I believe,
the core of the army as going
exactly
down.
Right. If I remember right, because I don't have it up here, but my memory is wild. I think it's 160 for 20 boys now. So 20 boys plus a war boss is war boss 80 or 65? I can't remember. But yeah, it's 220-ish points for 20 boys and a war boss now. Yeah, 220-ish. And I think that is extremely attractive for that combination now. And yeah, so definitely I think Orc players can go and have a little look in again at what, a little bit more of the mechanized lists in the Dread Mob, in addition to having, shock attack guns, looters, flash kits. And I think Bully Boys is worth a look in again as well. I've been just in my head ticking over a couple of, combos that still live and thrive in Bully Boys. And then when we talk about some other points changes, we almost got to a point in the game where the meta was getting defined by super elite infantry or super heavy infantry, as some people have called them. Things like Bulgrin, things like Deathwing Knights, things like Canoptic Wraiths in the
things
previous.
Things that were hanging onto the infantry keyword only by a thread.
Yeah. Or in the case of Canoptic Wraiths were beasts, but pretty much the same thing. You know what I mean? Super heavy infantry. And now those have been greatly reduced. Well, they've had their points greatly increased. And so Meganobs start to look like they, kind of hang in that bracket again.
So let me you say greatly reduce. What you mean is, at least what I think you mean is that they become more point heavy, so people may take fewer of them.
Correct.
Or at least fewer things to support them. That's probably where one of the stuff sometimes comes in a balance is that you were able to squeeze in fewer support things for them in your list.
Yeah. So you can look at it like the power of those units was here. And of course, I'm doing this in a way that if you're not watching this live, you've got no idea what I'm doing. But one hand is raised higher than the other hand. And so those ones
We've always talked with our hands, by the way. We were doing this even when we couldn't see each other. Like that's
we were built for video. And now they've come down and, Meganobs and some other ilks have come up. And so now you're getting closer to a parity between, outer codex comparisons or wider meta comparisons, which isn't always a smart thing to do, but it's something that is somewhat necessary when justifying taking a unit when another unit is prevalent or likely to be seen.
Big fan of the Meganob changes. I'm a huge Meganob enthusiast. I'm a member of several orc groups, I guess on Facebook. Painted an orc army at one point in time, and I was like, I got to get in and see what all the hot tech is. Now the hot tech is Death Dread memes and Meganob memes, and they've been pretty good. So I'm happy to see other people happy, and I do think that's it's a good change. And I think you're dead on about when these types of changes happen. Look at the other detachments to see if now some of those detachments are a little bit more attractive because the things that like maybe the meat of those detachments are a little bit more point friendly.
So I was thinking about going back to guard, and now all these changes coming down makes me think, well, like my list went down 110 points. Maybe having more tools would make it a little bit more viable. So I think I'm going to have to go back and play with my old list and try it out, which was Dread Mob and definitely not meta at all.
And you got the Morkan Gorkanauts.
I do. Yeah, 2 Gorkanauts and a Morkanaut. Yeah. And just a ton of bodies as well. Like I don't have any of the meta stuff, like no Ludas, no shock attack guns, nothing like that. And yeah, so I don't know. Part of me wants to see if I can still make Dread Mob work, but I don't know. Guard got some pretty tasty changes too, so I don't know what to do. I'm kind of trying to figure out what my path forward is.
I think that it's hard to play orcs without a smile on your face. Was they riding a jet ski? It's like
I will say though, it feels a little bit bad.
It's just a joke.
It feels a little bit bad when you call the WA at an event and you see all these super competitive players roll their eyes at you. It does feel bad. It does.
I don't know. I always see the WAs go off and do it.
Yeah.
Just know that they're wrong.
Yep.
I actually stopped calling the WA like that.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So we're gonna light that spark again. Shock attack gun going down to 65 points. So I think you're right. That is actually a pretty good, I guess, quality of life improver because you like doing those things. Sometimes you roll the big numbers and stuff goes crazy.
Yeah, life feels good.
Big mechs there at 70 points. I mean, they went down. Gorkanauts went down. Hunter rig went down. Kill rig went down. Commandos went down. Tank busters went down. These are things people take.
You talk about which one is it, the Hunter rig or the Kill rig? That's 135 points now.
That's the Hunter rig.
Hunter, yeah.
For 135 points for 16 toughness 10 2 save chassis. So it's OC 5 has 20 boy attacks plus some Hunter rig cool stuff in there. But just for the chassis, just for 16 wounds of toughness 10 with a 3 up armor save, 6 up feel no pain for 135 points, that's a bargain to slap on any old objective. Just bang. I think that's really, really aggressively costed and very interesting.
I get a little nervous when I see something with no armor save and this boys unit be 160 points.
It's orcs with a 3-up, baby. That's as good as it gets.
Oh, well, no, I meant as far as like the boys and the beast snaggers go.
Oh,
they
yeah,
still
yeah.
they did they went down, but it's still kind of high up there, and I feel like that's definitely going to enable some orc generals. Sorry, war bosses.
Thank you.
Yes.
Or maybe Big Mechs. You don't
yeah,
really know what
true.
flavor of
True.
orc they are.
True. To
Pain boys.
field more of them, I just feels like still like a lot of eggs in one basket. So, we'll see what wins out if some of these, since the other, like the toys, that's kind of, boys or toys, that's what you sometimes have to choose with when you're going with in an orc army. But it looks like they've kind of set it up to maybe you can have like a little mixture of both and do all right. And of course the big boys with the mega knobs, like 6 mega knobs. Isn't that better than that used to be? It is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It is better than it used to be for sure.
That is.
They did have one rules clarification relevant to mega knobs, in that on the turn the war is called. Let's say you're playing bully boys and you've got a war boss and 6 mega knobs. Should the mega knobs die in the turn during the turn in which their feel no pain is active during the war, the war boss will not have that feel no pain for the remainder of that phase and or turn, depending on how you had ruled it locally. So it's now been deemed that as soon as the bodyguard unit is gone, there are no persisting effects that will continue to affect the character unit or the unattached character unit. And that's going to be the case, and that's going to have flow-on effects for a bunch of different interactions. And I think is probably for the best, because some things did get quite messy for some of those interactions. But yeah, that's definitely something to keep in mind when you're considering mega knobs now. I actually think mega knobs are quite good at the moment.
I think they're one of the coolest units in the Orc Codex. Although that title is in healthy competition probably on whichever day of the week you ask anyone about the orcs. It's kind of
so. Tanya hit us on a transition we didn't take over to Guard, or the Astra Militarum. I got some stuff to talk about.
All right.
I got some stuff.
All right. We'll tell you what. Let's take a break. We'll come back and talk about the Guard, Astra Militarum. We'll talk about a little bit about that. Also, I got a concept that I've been doing this for, I don't know, a year now. I'm going to show. Well, I'll just do it right now before we do a break. I'm going to show you my bonus miniature. That's what I don't know how to call it other than that. But this is what I paint on when I still have paint on my palette, and I don't like to waste, whatever the paint. I don't know, it's silly. But like a brushstroke here and there. I've been painting on this Terminator Captain with a sword for about, I don't know, a year or so. A little bit of paint. He's not done yet. You can see the cape's not done. A couple of things I haven't done yet. But I've almost got done with this guy, so I'm gonna have to pick another bonus miniature here pretty soon. I guess maybe another month or so after this is done. But if I ever do, I've got a few extra strokes of a little red or gold or lead belcher or whatever. I'll just pick up this guy and put some paint on him. I cannot be the only one that does this. Do other people do this as well?
No. No, I don't.
I have in the past, but it's not a consistent practice. Like every now and then. Like if I've got like just a puddle of Cadian green on my thing, and I've just happened to have, because I will go and I will build a bunch of models and then just Chaos Black or grey them, whatever color I'm using, and then if I've just got leftover paint that goes on them, I will just start slapping it on just to get the paint used. But that's only if I've got the production line in full swing. Yeah. I was going to ask, Paul, are we starting some kind of show and tell segment on the show?
Yes, why not? We have the technology. We will have to describe. So, okay, for anybody listening on the podcast aggregators, thank you. Leave us a 5-star review and a thumbs up. But I just showed a Blood Angel Terminator Captain with a power sword. He's red, he's gold, he's got a blue power sword. Looks pretty cool. Black cape. I'm not done with the cape yet. No decals and stuff on there. And I'm about, 80% done with it.
I've got a rock.
Oh, is it a tactical rock?
It's got a hole in it.
Yeah, you do. You do.
Yeah.
I always have a jar of rocks on my painting desk, so I also have rocks.
Nice.
I'm sure I've got a rock around somewhere. Red, you got a rock? It's like, what's-
Rock. Can't say I have a rock that is not already underneath a model somewhere.
Here's my rocks.
Yeah, there you go. So that's my bonus miniature, and he's just about done. You know, and it's kind of like the Terminator Captain with a power fist is so much better than the Terminator Captain with a power sword. But
Yeah,
this guy's gonna hit the table sooner or later. We'll see. Hey, reroll charge, still reroll charge. All right, we'll take a quick break. We will come back and we'll talk about the Astra Militarum. See you in a minute, everybody.
FTN is brought to you by Discount Games Inc. Please visit them at www.discountgamesinc.com. And don't forget to ask Jay about ways to save even more on your hobby projects.
We are back, everybody. Thanks for checking out our sponsors. Thanks for checking us out. If you made it this far, you probably like the show enough to hit the subscribe button. Maybe leave some comments down below to kind of trick the aggregators into letting other people come and hang out with us as well as we do this. It is so fun talking Warhammer and Warhammer-related things with y'all. We said we're going to talk about some Astra Militarum in this segment, and I think it's high time that we did that.
All right. So, the one we all knew was coming, but possibly more than expected, Bulgarin got wiggity whacked. Just absolutely slapped in the face with a wet fish.
So if I could just chime in on that for just a second, is that when you say we all know it's coming, what you mean is these units are working their way into like the majority of list, and so that is typically means they're getting a little. They're just a little bit too attractive when they become auto-includes, and when that happens, we kind of suspect if they're not like a battle line unit or a core or something, you know, the Army is known for, it may get some attention come balance time.
Yeah, the issue was when you took, 12 to 18 Bulgarin in an army that had Rogel Dawns, Lehman Russes, other very durable chassised, or very high toughness, high armor save, defensible profiles. It got to a stat check all of its own, but a stat check that had a distribution of different issues all in the same one army. Whereas you could theoretically have enough anti-tank that was relevant and good to remove battle tanks and large battle tanks like Rogel Dawns, but those same handful of las cannon shots might only kill one Bulgarin due to a 4+ invulnerable save and -1 damage and feel no pain. So something had to give in that internal balance. And obviously, we now know Bulgarin was the one that they keyed in on. Bulgarin went up 40 points for 6.
So, and you're talking about you could basically create that kind of picket line of nobody can get through the Bulgarin, they can't get to the tanks get to fire all turn, which might seem a little oppressive unless you were just custom, purpose built for an army like that.
It added essentially it enabled you to play Custodes with your guard. Like you added in, 3 units of Custody Wardens to your guard army. And now it got to play all the best parts of Custodes while still having a fire base as good as anybody's. And so, it was a tough balance to find. So, Bulgarin up 40 points. It's the second highest single point increase in all the points changes. There's only one one unit that's increased more than Bulgarin have, and there's another unit that's increased at 40 points also that we may get to. But and I was already
that's
of the
significant
opinion,
percentage increase for the Ogrid. So I mean that's done.
180 to 220. I don't know what that is percentile wise, but it's not nothing. So if you were taking 18 of them, you were up 120 points just straight off the bat. The only other thing that went up in points was the tank commander. And now people, I've seen people in my chats and people in my guard circles being like, "Oh my god, why the commander go?" Blah, blah, blah. I'm getting a bit hyperbolic about it. Giving into the hyperbole, so to speak, and. I love anyway.
It is silly. The best form of exaggeration.
It is. And so the thing you need to know is that so many people, when they logged in and looked at things, went straight to the points and only saw the points. What happened is the Lehman Russ tank commander actually got buffed. Straight up got buffed because
Sure
it now has the squadron keyword. So it benefits from all of the rules all of a sudden. It benefits from every rule in the index now, whereas before it benefited from a very select handful of things you could do with it, mostly just orders based from Lord Solar was really the only thing that could order it. Now it gets the full swathe of the index open to it, and in all honesty, it went up 15 points. I would have paid 25, 30 points for the amount of new things that I
just
can do
to unlock that squadron keyword.
Correct. Unlock the minus damage, unlock all the rest of the goodness. So people who see the points just know your tank command is actually better. Your tank command actually got buffed and needed a points increase to justify it getting buffed. Yeah, 100%. I'll still take 2 until I learn that 1 or 3 is better.
But just like we were talking about before, though, where do those points come from? Because tank commanders, I think, are great basically amongst themselves. Like if you have a tank commander, it's going to do what tank commander does in some things. They don't necessarily need a ton of support around them, except for this stuff like the screens. Like you want as many turns as you can firing, and eventually dying on maybe turn 5 and killing something else and taking it with you. So.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Where do you still find the points for that if the main screen has gone up by 25% or something, whatever it is, and the tank commanders have gone up by 10%?
I was already writing lists without Bulgren in them, even when Bulgren were obviously extremely good to take, because I found Bulgren boring. They were playing in a way that I didn't enjoy as a guide player.
I thought you were going to say because you only had 12 modeled. You didn't want to build 6 more.
I was already finding them to be a thing that was making the game unfun for my opponent, and I didn't particularly find them enticing. So when I don't find them extremely exciting to play and they make the game less enjoyable for my opponent, I feel like I've got less reason to take them. I mean, if I really enjoy them and my opponent really doesn't, you better believe I'm taking it. But if neither of us enjoying it, why am I taking it? So that's how
I was going to say that's one of those rule zero conversations too. Is like, hey man, I really don't have I'm not having fun taking stuff that has to get through that Bulgren. So when you're playing in a casual setting or just in a pickup game in a story, you'd be like, yo, don't do that. Or I'd prefer if you didn't do that, then you can opt to do something different.
Because
with 150,000 data slates to choose from in the Astra Militarum army, you can find something that's good.
Yeah. So Astra Militarum, I believe there's some really exciting pivots. Scout Sentinel's going down 5 points per model, extremely good. 55 points for a Scout Sentinel. Of course, I'm really excited to take a single unit of 3 Scout Sentinels now, with las cannons or plasma cannons, whichever one you feel like is better in your environment. Because of course you can bring them back. Two command points to bring back 3 Scout Sentinels worth of wounds is a great use of 2 command points. So really excited to get them on the table. And here's the secret spice. The secret spice, is the other abhuman. The actual
Rattlings.
humble Ogren, I think.
I was hoping he was going Rattlings.
Rattlings? They got some new models coming.
The kit looks freaking spectacular. They look spectacular. And I already play with 2x5 Rattlings. I think they're very, very important now. Even more important now that you have that control and agency in the middle of the board early when you don't have Bulgren to kind of hold it for you later. So I think your Rattlings have actually gone up tremendously in value. But the humble Ogren, 120 points for 6 Ogren. 100 points less. 100 points less than unit of 6 Bulgren. They got the same
for
3
the same
toughness 6 wounds.
Yeah.
With the feel no pain still. Yep, they don't have the minus damage or the invuln, but they're 100 points less. So you take 2 units of these guys, and you're only 20 points more than 1 unit of 6 Bulgren. Now let me tell you about their gun. Their gun is a rapid fire 3-shot heavy bolter. So they got 3 shots, possibly 6 shots at rapid fire range at 5 strength 5 -1 2 damage. They get plus 1 AP shooting against the closest target, so we go to AP2. Add a Hellhound, their AP2 ignores cover. Add an Levinos Exterminator, their AP3 ignore cover. Add a single mortar shot from a command squad sitting out of line of sight and a couple of CP, their AP4 ignores cover. That's from a unit of 6 Bulgren at 120 points. You can have 36 Strength 5, AP4, ignores cover, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1 shots. And I am very excited to see. I honestly do not believe you should ever bother going to all the way to the AP4 with this thing. There's probably a sweet spot around AP2 ignores cover and or AP3, whichever one of those makes more sense, where it gets the maximum amount of value for the least amount of expenditure, resource expenditure. But I am really excited for what I think you can do with them for 120 points. I think they are sick, really well costed, and very interesting. And also, personally, I think the models still look awesome.
Yeah, I love the way you described that, by the way, because you described it as like the stats. Like, so getting around any type of bias I have versus one unit or the other, or, whatever. You just described, like, this is the abilities, this is what it can do for you. And yeah. I like that, looking at it that way from that level.
In addition, they're not awful in combat. I think they still have 3 strength 6 AP1 attacks each. No, 4 strength 6 AP1 attacks each. So they're not terrible in combat. Absolutely respectable. And yeah, I think they're extremely attractive. I'm very keen to get. I've got 6, and I might get another 6. I don't think I'll go to 18 with them. Because once again, I don't want to make an unfunner situation. But unlike Bulgrin, you'll get to kill these guys. You'll absolutely get to kill these guys. They've only got a 5-up armor save with a 6-up feeling pain. Of course, Lord Solar can order them to have a 4-up armor save. And you can do a lot of other exciting things with them. Like they can move 9 with orders and stuff like that. So yeah, I think they're an extremely exciting unit and really well pointed. To give you back a little bit of the toughness that you lost when you possibly transitioning out of some Bulgrin squads, whilst being way more fun for your opponent, and also like getting another wild casino cannon to guard, which we all know and love.
Well, you only need a turn or 2 for the tanks to hang out. Like if they're on the table for another turn or 2, you're going to be doing better than you would be otherwise, and these can still provide that level of screen.
Oh, for sure. In addition to possibly the new best unit in Imperial Guard, the Tempestus Aquilons, which are still as printed 90 points. And of course, we've seen this with Games Workshop when they bring out a brand new unit, and or the perfect example now is Imperial Agents, brand new faction. And apart from, I think, Subductors, if taken as allies, every other unit in that book is exactly the same points as printed in the back of their codex. So because they're brand new, there's no reason to try and balance them before they have the data for them. So Tempestus Aquilons, I believe, could very well end up costing more in a couple of months, but at 90 points right now, they give you so much control of the battlefield, and I think they are one of the best units in Imperial Guard, and I'll be getting a minimum of 20 ASAP. Next time I am close to a Games Workshop store. Oh yeah, Atlanta in T-minus 3 weeks. Let's go.
Gotta be worth it. Some Absolutely other changes in the Astra Militarum side of things. Other than the Bulgrin going up, the tank commander going up, everything else pretty much stayed the same or went down. So obviously those are the targets there, which, for the reasons described. And also I think the Rogue Dorm went down the last time there was a points
it did, yeah.
update. And we kind of suspected that we would see more of them. And I don't know that we have seen the percentage of increase of Rogue Dorns that I thought we were going to see. But now where maybe the tanks have to become slightly more durable because there are fewer screens, maybe that will be what pushes them up. But I still think they're value to take in a list. But we shall see.
Do you wanna talk about some lists that were possibly problematic that now may not be problematic anymore?
So the things that you think were going to be cleaned up by some of this stuff.
Well, I think there were some factions out there that were possibly hurting some feelings, and I think people will need to know. Yeah, two I was about to talk about, Sisters and Thousand Sons. So the biggest single points increase was to the Triumph of St. Catherine, which was a insanely well-pointed 190 points, has now gone up by, was it 200? It's 250 points now. I don't know if it went up 50 or 60 points, but that was the single biggest points increase in this MFM, was the Triumph of St. Catherine going up. In addition, pretty much everything that was taking in the meta, I'm doing whatever.
It's air quotes.
Air quotes, yeah. In the meta Bringers of Flame list has also gone up. So Immolators, Castigators, Dominions, Seraphim, Morven Vile, and Paragons all gone up. In addition to every single enhancement as well, Matt. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, so they got a very holistic adjustment there. and should yield some much more enjoyable play experiences for people.
Paragon Warsuits, 220 points. Morvenval, 170 points. I still think Morvenval's a bargain. Like, Morvenval just does so much stuff. I mean, look, she's a High Lord of Terra. Needs those. I shouldn't say needs those abilities. Certainly deserves those abilities as a character. But I do think something very much a attractive buy in a list for everything that they do. And you're right. Every enhancement the bigger brings a flame went up in points. Fire and Fury, Iron's. Was it Iron Supplies and Saint Installa, the Manual of Saint Griselda, and the Righteous Rage, all increased. A whole lot of red in this.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, they were winning a lot. Actually, so we have often kind of equated them to the Adeptus Sororitas being like the new Eldari almost, in form and function that they can do. And so they've been winning a lot, very similar to how, like, percentage-wise, it's seemingly maybe not quite as explosively with like the mortal wounds and that kind of stuff, the devastating wounds. Which devastating wounds, don't carry through the unit when they come from something like that. So, like that, when they turn into mortals, they stop at the model themselves. That's pretty good. Sorry, I guess I tried talking about Eldari and our echoes from when that happened. But the Adeptus Sororitas play in a very similar way. They can manipulate the dice. They can do a lot of taking and not trading. They can basically do a lot of burst damage all in one shot, and they're very difficult to deal with. So that was very, I guess, emblematic of what the Eldari were before. And now, with a bunch of points changes, exactly that we saw on the Eldari side as well, plus some rules changes, is that going to bring them back in parity? Seems like this is a big step towards that. Time will tell.
Absolutely. The other, apart from Sisters, the other biggest changed faction by their best builds is 100% Thousand Sons. So every single character, apart from the Zangor Shaman for Thousand Sons, went up. In addition to the Vortex Beast, the unit of 3 Zangor Enlightened. So the 6 is still the same points, but the unit of 3 went up. And yeah, it's gonna be back to the drawing board for Thousand Sons, trying to redesign what their lists look like now.
And you're saying that because like the list that they were all taking, there's not enough points to go around for that list. Like everything changes, not just one unit. Like
So I mean, I'll talk about Necrons now in a comparison. So Necrons can take pretty much some of their best lists and drop one utility unit and go about their business. Like they can absorb the changes and still maintain, having a decent balance of utility to damage output and jank and all these things and support units. I believe in my summation, T-Suns have been tipped over the edge of that, where they can no longer balance having enough units to play the table whilst playing in the way that they want, which is very similar to what you said about Eldari, and just stay safe and take. They're only going to have they're going to have to shrink again, and they already had a very small footprint army. I mean, you talk about the best units in Thousand Sons, apart from Magnus, obviously he's one of the best models in the game, is literally 5 battle line units, a toughness 4 with 2 wounds and a character, and now you can only have that was their whole list was built around that being the centric modal way to make your army work. That was the unit that could do all the things, move, do a doom bolt, still do a phenomenal amount of damage, go and score you an objective at the same a mission at the same time, and get your primary and things like that. And now you're gonna have to find ways to cut and trim. And I'm really interested to see where they go from here. So the issue with, I guess the biggest issue with Thousand Sons is that you need a critical mass of Cabal points in order to make your list kind of work. And the magic number that has been thrown out since the index came out is about 19. Having 19 Cabal points gets you the maximum
Cabal
ability.
Points are generated by your Psychers and to give you like boost for your other powers and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Lets you use essentially a sandbox unit of bunch of stratagems via a different resource mechanic of Cabal points. So you have a very powerful subset of, you know, you can think of them like as command point usage, but a very different subset just for you that you get by generating, you know, of course, when things die, you lose them, et cetera, and attrition, you know, takes them off the top. And so when you start just with the ability to purchase less because they cost more, and then when you lose them, it hurts more because you started with less. That's where I think they've tipped over the knife edge, and people are going to have to go and start reinventing things, trying to make Thousand Sons armies look and feel different. Because
So I've been getting my butt whooped on, you know, pretty steadily for, I don't know, 3 years by Thousand Sons, and we have a very talented player on my team, and he was anticipating huge changes like this, so he's already basically been test playing new ideas in preparation for these points changes and things. And so he messaged our group and he's like, bringing out the Terminators, baby. Like, that's what he thinks that the new
I agree.
The new hotness is Terminators. Yeah.
I think he's onto it. That's what I'd be pivoting as well, because Vortex Mutolith Beasts, which, you know, I think me and Paul, we may have coined this together. The term Thick Sons. They're no longer Thousand Sons; they're Thick Sons, because you try and take a more durability centric Thousand Sons list by, you know, using things like Mutoliths, more Rhinos, Predators, stuff like that. Vindicators, Paul. Okay, and and you try and make a more durable, skewed list, one that actually exists in the middle of the board when, you know, you don't have to try and, you know, hold objectives with Rubric Marines, which are, you know, quite pricey now for 5 plus a character. And so, I think Terminators is a great way to go from there. And some of the other tanks. What I'd love to see happen is for Thousand Sons players to find a way to not have to play Hero Hammer, which of course is a term that we've used in different editions of 40k, so I should explain it. Hero Hammer is when you have like more points in characters than any other slot in your army. Like, you've got more points in characters than heavy supports, than troops, than elites, etc., in ages gone by when those words still meant something to the kids.
I like how y'all talked about having to still need enough to play the table, and that means score all the objectives. Like we play when you're flipping cards, unless you're taking a fixed objective, you've got to be in multiple places sometimes, or be able to get places, and also have units that can, as you're burning them through attrition, last you 5 turns to score points each and every one of those rounds. And Thousand Sons may be a little lean on that, and so taking more durable units like Terminators, or maybe going into demons, you know.
Yes.
You know, might give them some of that staying power, that lasting oomph that they might need to get through the whole game.
Oh man, well if you want to slam some durability in, and you don't want to have to take Mutoliths, or, you know, risk using your very, very important Magnus model, Pink Horrors and Terminators is where I would go to. Just get 10 Terminators in and 10 Pink Horrors and see how you feel. And if you want to go up and down from there. But man, because 10 Pink Horrors in like shooting matchups are so frustrating. They're so disgustingly frustrating. Keep them away from Star Scythe or whatever the burst cannon, the crisis suit is. Yes, do that, because they're not going to survive that. But pretty much everything else just like shoots them and makes the unit bigger.
Loving that. So that's it. What are your, I guess, leave some comments. What do you think the biggest losers is? What are you making some changes to your list? What are you looking forward to playing against now? Maybe now that some things may be changed if they were frustrating you before. But that is our show this week. We'll be back next week talking about how the ripples and the impacts, talking about MDF terrain and Kill Team, and it's a bunch to be talking about. This is a great time to be playing Warhammer. Happy to be doing it, and looking forward to seeing everybody over the last few months of this year as we go into the next one. Good night, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.